Right, so branding and brand strategy. What is the difference? Do we know what the difference is? Do we need to know? So basically, I'm going to really just dive straight into it. So, brand. What do you think a brand is? If you ask most people what a brand is, they'll probably say it's a logo, isn't it? If it's not the logo, then it's obviously got to be the product. Maybe it's the iconic packaging. Maybe it's something that you recognize on the packaging. Maybe it's the designer. But your brand isn't your logo, isn't the packaging, isn't the product, isn't the famous designer. It's a brand is how your customers recognize and experience your business. So if you think about the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the watch you wear, the food you eat, the bit of gadget, the technology that you can't live without, why did you choose them? Mainly because you like the way it tastes, the way it looks, the way it drives, or even the way it makes you feel when you're experiencing that product. I often say about shoes, because it's the easiest thing for me to make an analogy, that ladies might see a woman come into a restaurant and she's got red soles on the bottom of her shoes. And does anybody know what red sole shoes are? Does anybody recognize the brand?
Louboutins.
Yeah, Christian Louboutins. Now, it's a very nice, bold move for Christian Louboutins to have just red soles. It doesn't have to be just ladies' shoes. Obviously, there's men's shoes as well. But we recognize those shoes, sometimes termed as restaurant shoes. They get you from the taxi to the restaurant and then back out to the taxi, not for walking or climbing or hiking around. But we all recognize those shoes. You have a perception of what that person is wearing those shoes for. It might not be comfort, but it is definitely a status. So it's all about the experience, those feelings and emotions. Hence why they say you don't own your brand, your customers do, because it's their experience with your brand that's so important. So how many of us research and review a brand before we buy it? How many look at a product's reviews, testimonials before we actually buy a product? I think most of us do. We'll look at whether it's got 5 stars. We'll even read a few reviews. And if you're like me, you'll probably look at the 1-star review just to see how bad that product didn't achieve that 5-star review. So please jump in if you've got any questions or you want to add something at all. And the increase of online sales, especially during COVID, has made us more reliant on these reviews, these testimonials. Word of mouth used to be the big thing. And it's interesting that we remember the worst and the best cases. If something does what it does, you probably might not mention it. But if it does something outstanding, you can't wait to tell somebody. Equally, if something has really failed, flopped on its face, you're the first person to go and phone somebody up, tell your friends, maybe even plaster it on social media at how bad this product failed. So we're going to look at some branding images just to see what they mean to you, what they say to you. Grant LeBoff says, creating personality for something inanimate, giving it life, and establishing emotional link and making it more desirable. So let's see if these make it more desirable for you. So if you want to take yourself all off mute, I want to hear some of your voices. So anybody recognize the product? Anybody recognize the brand?
iPod, Apple.
Who said iPod? Well done, Henry. Yeah, this is Apple's iPod. This advert hasn't been used since 2003 now, but I think it still does the job. You instantly thought of Apple. Now, you might have recognized the device, you might have recognized the style, but it's a device that makes you feel like there's music going on. How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel like dancing? If you're an introvert, probably not. But that style of where you could be, that vision of where you could be. How about this one? Oops.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Are you sure that's Coca-Cola? What if I change the color?
Pepsi.
Yeah, now isn't that interesting? I've just changed the background color and you instantly change from Coca-Cola to Pepsi. But who told you that? Was it Coca-Cola that told you theirs is red, always red? Did Pepsi say we have blue and we are nothing more than just blue? I mean, if you look at the Pepsi logo, they are red and blue. So it's what they've ingrained in you. Their branding, their marketing, their advertising has made you identify a brand with a color. Can a brand own a color? Technically, no, but if they ingrain it really deeply in their marketing, in their brand identity, then you identify that color. So if I say bright orange, airplane travel, you would all say
EasyJet.
EasyJet.
EasyJet. Yeah. So it definitely works. Right, how about some words? We're going to add some words now. Beans means?
Heinz.
Heinz. I'm glad everybody joined in then. I don't want to be sat here. So bringing together imagery, color, the use of their identity, and now we're adding a strap line. Now, if you went to my school, the strap line for Heinz wasn't beans means Heinz. It probably meant something else, something about the more you eat, the more you something else. But it was a image and a product and a brand that we easily identified with. How creative can you get? Well, most cosmetic shampoo companies, brands, actually make up words. They've ingrained new words that they've identified using their marketing, using their advertising, and we've become happy with them. So how creative can you be? As creative as you want to be. Oops. Right, storytelling. Oh, yes, straight away. I was going to say, our promise, it delivers the most powerful section, courtesy of a cyclone configuration. I had to read that because it's one of those tongue twisters that doesn't roll off the tongue easily, but you've identified it straight away. I mean, I could have said, how about some Everest tested windows, a meerkat-inspired insurance company, or a neighbor borrowing a cup of sugar. I don't know if you can remember the marketing and the branding for the neighbor that used to pop round to borrow a cup of sugar. He always ended up having a coffee, and it was always that coffee brand that we remembered. In fact, that the advertising, the branding they used throughout their campaign made us want to know what the next step in that advert was. Was he going to actually ask her out? Was he going to go around for another coffee? Was she going to reciprocate? So it's all about that storytelling and that influence. And talking of influence, we probably recognize which brand this is. They came out with, yes, they came out with a tagline, joy is youthful. Now you might notice that the gentleman in this picture isn't on the youthful side. He's a bit more aged, a bit more weathered, like some of us. But it's the idea, that fear of missing out. What could we achieve? Could we get back that spark, the enjoyment, the experience? So the storytelling and the influence and persuasion is all part of this branding journey. And I didn't leave it all out. How about a gesture? I don't know if you can remember this campaign. So
Is it Bisto?
Sorry?
Is it Bisto?
No, actually, it was Heinz ketchup. And it was the idea of patting the bottle on the bottom, shaking it up, sticking the knife through the neck of the bottle to try and scrape out those last elements. So what they did is they did a whole branding campaign based on not having the brand in the image. It's amazing what we remember. I mean, I was going to do another one where the guy used to shake the beans in his hand and smell them, and you would instantly say, ah, that's Nescafe coffee. And it was that kind of link of Gareth Hunt shaking those beans in his hand, but I'm showing the age now, shaking those beans in his hand and then smelling the aroma. So this is all parts of your branding. And what are we trying to achieve? What we're trying to achieve is we're trying to narrow the field and make it easier for our customers to buy by identifying something with them. So brand strategy, what is it? How does it work? Do I actually need one? Well,
Battery 90%. Connected to Peter's iPhone.
what they actually say is a brand that goes to market without a brand strategy is like a book without a blurb. You haven't given them a reason to choose you. So people dive straight into the visual representation of their brand and then find it hard to maintain sales, increase awareness. It's because they've skipped straight through to the fun bits. And I do have to agree with them. I love the fun bits because it's visual, but you need to get in all of the elements into your strategy. So let's have a look at some of the strategy keys. Brand awareness. Now, these are all brands of, now, do you recognize them?
Hotels?
Hotels. Yes. Now, I've removed any mention of hotels, but you all have identified, I know these logos, I know these brands, and I know where these brands sit. And these are all hotel brands. How about this brand? Ooh.
Is that Lotus?
There's some serious faces. No, it's not Lotus, but it's interesting that you...
Lamborghini.
Lamborghini. This is actually Peugeot. This is the new logo for Peugeot.
Oh.
I know.
I was going to say Peugeot, but it's not like the old one. Yeah.
They're
Carl,
stealing, they're stealing Lamborghini's logo there. That's I definitely
So
thought.
obviously, I removed the Peugeot name.
I think they've got some work to do to get the cars to match the logo now.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue there. But you can see that they've tried to lift the brand. They've tried to make it a little bit more high market, a bit more sporty. So they've chosen a shape that invades one of those sporty style cars. So you start to think, yeah, that must be a sporty car. I'll have to put my hand up and say I've got a Peugeot anyway. So for me, instant recognizable. And yeah, I would say it's mildly sporty. So how about recall? So basically recall, how does it work? How can we measure it? If I said I was going down to the vending machine downstairs and you wanted me to grab something, I would say, what would you like me to grab here? You would say, what would you say? Twix, Kit Kat, Mars bar?
Twix.
So that's brand recall. Basically imagining the brand without any triggers. I said vending machine. I could have said chocolate machine, but I didn't want to push you there. But 9 out of 10 times, most people will describe one of those bars off that screen. And that's your brand recall. So you've got brand awareness, brand recognition, brand recall, ultimately ending in loyalty, brand loyalty. That's what you want. Repeat customers that keep coming to you because they just love it, love the experience, love the services, love the price, love you, the person that sells it. But it's all about that brand loyalty. Now, obviously, I don't want you to all get tattooed with your favorite brands. That would be quite a big brand loyalty. But I always think about Apple when I think about brand loyalty. They've brought out new models. They update things. The next item is always a bit more expensive than the earlier one. But that brand loyalty is really deep within most of their customers. And you'll buy it whatever. I've got to have the latest gadget. So now I usually talk to people about their brand and I usually say, are you a pink unicorn? It's one of my little things. Are you a pink unicorn? And they say, why do you say that, Mike? I've met a few companies and they've done this, but I didn't want to name names. So I'm going to try and keep it as anonymous as possible. You've called yourself a pink unicorn because it's your favorite color and you love unicorns. You're going to use Facebook as a platform to sell your luxury, bespoke, handcrafted shoes that cost £1,000. And you're going to do it on Facebook because that's where all your friends are. And you'll get plenty of likes. They love your products. They love you. They love your shoes. But You have to consider your customers. Where do they hang out? What drives them? How do you engage with them? What will make them say, I want one of those? So it starts with your foundations. These are your values. So this is the ideal start for your brand strategy. What's unique about your brand? What's different about your brand? What value does your brand offer? Make it simple. Einstein would say, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself. I would say that if you can't describe it in 12 words, then you don't have a good, strong brand offer. And it's not because it takes a lot to explain, but it needs to be simple. It needs to be that easy, I want one of those, or tell me some more information. What's the purpose of your brand? How will you deliver that brand? It could be something you found. It could be something you saw, you experienced. There was a gap in the market and you can make it better. How could you change that process? And then how will your brand help your customers? What's that emotional proposition? What are you offering? You need to be clear. Remember, you don't buy the drill, you buy the hole it makes. So innocent drinks. I'm going to talk about the values of innocent drinks very quickly. Their brand offer is great tasting fruit smoothies. Now, they were probably one of the first ones on the market. Their purpose, to make it easier for people to get their 1 of 5 a day. So it's nice and simple. And the emotional offer is, we help people live well and die old. So they're really drilling into you, making that emotional connection, making you think that if you drink those, you're going to be a lot healthier, you're going to last longer. Is that enough? Well, I would probably say you probably need to eat a lot more of just that little bottle of fruit and vegetables, but it's a good start. Your brand values are more than just a foundation. They're your sounding board as well. When you set your values, if you make them strong, if you make them solid, make them the foundation you need, then you can return to them if you have a query. Should I higher my price? Should I offer something cheap? Should I reduce the price, buy 2 for 1? That all affects your brand. And if you look at your foundations, if you'll set yourself as being luxury, the best, 9 out of 10, then should you offer 2 for 1? No, not in my eyes. It's just cheap tricks to get you to buy more, to shift more stock. So let's build a brand. So the first one is define your brand positioning. I'm going to go through these with some images, but I thought it'd be easier to give you all the bullets straight up front. So we're going to define a brand's position. Then we're going to develop a consistent message. We're going to create a visual identity, and then we're going to help you communicate your brand. And I've done it in that order because it's the order that you should be thinking about your brand, not diving into the creating that visual. So here we go. Brand positioning. Value-based. We can save you pounds. Quality-based. The best that money could buy. Competitive-based. Better than the leading. Industry, niche, celebrity, just reputation. All of them are about brand positioning. So if we look at the everyday value baked beans, they're usually cheaper than Heinz. They probably come out of the same factory, to be honest, but your perception is you're getting value. You know what your taste is going to be. You know what you're getting for your money. Whereas Heinz, recognizable, it's a big brand. You probably think Heinz is probably the best baked beans that you can buy. Then there's the in-store version. Now, what makes those different? Now, for them, they're building their brand. For the Tesco brand here, it's all about building their brand. We're looking after our customers to make you get cheaper shopping, more quality for less money. So it's about their brand building. Message, consistent message. Now, just before you something different. Yes, I have made that advert. It's not a real one. Volvos are boxy, but they're good. Consistent messaging. It might be true. These Volvos might be safe instead of sexy, but it's the wrong message. What we want to do is find a message that resonates with your customers. You need to be truthful, but it needs to be sexy a bit, of course. So it's about getting that consistent message. And talking messages, we found this in an underground in New York somewhere. Now, I think it's probably lost in translation. After dinner, you can stab your date. Now, I'm sure that's not the marketing they were looking for, but you have to consider all of the dates. Maybe after you've used your skewer, you can use your skewer to pick out a pitted date from one of the tables. What they didn't give you is context here. So it's a great message, maybe lost in translation, but it could do with a bit of context there. Right, visuals. I picked one of the brands that we've done in the last 12 months. The Male Wessex Choir, nice and local for me. This is their brand. They have it on their shirts, they have it on their ties, they have it on their lapels of their jackets. But what they wanted to do is attract younger males to sing in their choir. So they knew they needed to change the style of their brand. They needed to go out with a different recruitment campaign. So after looking at lots of dragons, lots of various elements, we looked at what made the Wessex Choir the Wessex Choir. The name was picked especially because of the area. So we looked into lots of different things, different styles of dragon, whether a dragon's got 4 legs, 2 legs, whether it's a wyvern. So we went through the whole process and came up with something fresh, identifiable, could be scaled down and easily noticeable on their jackets. They moved away from jackets and they moved towards polo shirts instead of shirt and tie to give off a more youthful appearance. And when it came to the campaign, we went with a campaign that helped people understand what kind of songs they would be singing. So do you recognize the songs? Is this live? Is this just fantasy? Now, because you might recognize the words, you might recognize the song, or you might recognize the band, but it definitely gives you an idea of what level of music they are doing, what level of music they're providing, and the kind of things that they sing in the choir. So this is just one of the ideas about how we can change the visual identity of a brand to identify directly with your target audience. And then all of which needs to be communicated correctly. And when I say communicated brand, I mean everything. Branding needs to work everywhere. It's advertising, social media, and even your reviews. So even your reviews becomes part of your branding. Remember, it's not what you tell your customers it's what your customers tell each other. As an example, I always point people at GoPro. They've probably got the largest awareness campaign on social media, but they use it in a very identifiable way. They have 18.5 million Instagram followers, 2 million Twitter followers, and 10 million Facebook followers. And I wish we could all have that much awareness going around for our own brands. And it's because they make use of all the social media platforms for different reasons. So Facebook is used to promote their brand and reach their customers, connecting with existing customers as well. Instagram is used to showcase their quality, their new products, and promoting user-generated items as well. So if they're giving away a camera, obviously you can say, look what you can achieve with our cameras. Twitter is for announcements and as well as communicating with their customers, because it's an easy way for customers to get in touch with GoPro, and they've got a really big team behind Twitter, so you can answer those questions straight away. And then YouTube is a catalogue of videos of how to use our products. So they've got themselves covered, but they're using social media in very specific ways. But it's not all digital. This is a local company that I met through networking. They do a range of sauces. You might have started to see them in supermarkets now. They sell in Sainsbury's and Waitrose. What was really nice is their experience. Each of the items are packaged with a lovely cardboard tube, and each of them have a handwritten note. So you feel that you're special. Either that or somebody in the warehouse is actually bored and just loves writing people notes. But I like the idea that they've got this nice touch for their customers, and they ask their customers to try and help them sell their products. So if you've had one of their sauces, please promote it, stick it on social media. Let us know how you feel about our products. This one was another item we experienced during lockdown. I thought it was a nice idea because, like most of us, we celebrated a birthday, anniversary or something during lockdown. We couldn't go out with friends. So this one was a set of canned drinks, non-alcoholic. There was espresso martini, there was a mojito. They all came in these very nice individual cans. But what was really nice is there was a handwritten note, there was some tasting ideas, and there was even some snacks to go with the products. So they thought of everything to try and make your event, your experience special. Now, normally I would go straight to this guy here, Gerald Ratner, to explain it takes 20 years to build a reputation, but only 5 minutes to ruin it. Now, I could go on about Gerald. You probably all know about his story and what he said. It's been taken out of context, but instead, I'm going to talk about Tropicana. Tropicana, I'm going to have to read this, is a famous brand that sells fruit juice around the world. In 2009, the brand decided to replace the existing packaging on the left with the new one on the right, when they went for a new market in North America. However, the new packaging design was rejected by the consumers. Now, I think it's a lovely design. It makes you feel happy because there's a happy family, there's some nice smiling faces. It's got a lovely picture of orange juice, so it makes you think of healthy, fresh, and if you do recognize the brand, you'll identify with the old brand. But what they hadn't thought about is their market and their customers. And unfortunately, their new brand sat very nicely in the middle of all this, and too nicely in my eyes, and didn't have that standout look that the old bottle used to have. We used to recognize that style of carton. We used to recognize the way the name was branded across the products, the orange and the straw stuck in it, all the elements that we identified with that brand. The whole exercise cost Tropicana $35 million. So just to give you an idea of how much they lost. And it wasn't just the repackaging. So obviously there was a cost in the repackaging. There was a cost on the advertising, but there was also the cost of the recall and the repackage to repopulate all the shelves with the old branded style. So hopefully that gives you my ideas about where branding, brand strategy could help with your business.
Mike, can I ask a question about that Tropicana? If you just go back to it.
Yeah, sure.
Was their driver for changing so drastically one of they were already losing market share and were trying to reposition themselves as a premium product, or did they want to try and increase sales even further?
Sorry, say that again, Roger. You broke up.
So were they losing market share and were looking to try and reposition themselves as more of a premium brand, or were they looking to try and drive more sales? What was their motivation for changing in the first place?
Well, basically, they were tracking a new market. So I'm going to stop sharing Well, I'll leave the picture up there for now. They were looking at opening a new market. So they thought with the investment of a new area in North America, they thought they'd go for a new look. I mean, I could understand.
Globally, they changed it globally.
No, they did it for just that area for that point to see how it would be accepted by the customers.
Mm.
It's an interesting way of doing it. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned a similar thing with Peugeot. Peugeot changed their brand, make it look a bit more sporty, and it was interesting what you came back with. It's a shame their cars don't match up to the new brand look, but it's a nice way of thinking about how your brand can change, how it can be, developed over the years and for different markets.
I mean, just to be fair about Peugeot, back in the 80s, they made some fantastic sports cars, but they lost their way after that.
Yes.
And I think hopefully what they're trying to do is go back to that era and try and re-image themselves of, we used to make some great sports cars and we're going to go back to doing that. But, the last 20 years have been awful, frankly,
I know.
for Peugeot.
I think the new style now, they've definitely got a new style, and I think they're trying to push on with the electric, like so many other brands. The Peugeot I've got actually is not out for sale anymore. It got discontinued in 2015. I don't know if you remember the RCZ. Yeah, it was a coupe car built around the same kind of size as a TT. It was Peugeot's attempt at trying to make a sporty little car. The nice bits are it's got all of the look on the inside and the drivability of the old 205 GTI. Unfortunately, yeah, it just couldn't convince everybody the same thing.
Yeah. My dad used to have a Peugeot 309 or a series of Peugeot 309s, and that's what we got was taken around in. Well, before that it was a Maxi, and that just broke down every week. But
are they also not trying to set a separate image away from Citroen and Vauxhall as well, as they're all part of the same group and occupy the same market space?
I think if you look at Vauxhall as well, they're trying to give themselves a very unique brand as well. So they're trying to move away. But I think it's such an open market now. There's new brands popping up and they're becoming stronger than what we had as traditionally, BMW, Vauxhall, Ford. And I think it's really opened it up for anybody, really. Is there anything else that I could help with?
Mike, I've got to shoot now. I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of the group, and Lee's on standby for me. So thank you very much. We're going to give you some love and some big ups on LinkedIn today. It's been very, very useful for me. And you've got the cogs working on a few things. So it's been useful. Everyone have a great weekend. If you've got any additional questions from Mike, please ask Mike, and we'll get the video distributed as well.
Yeah, excellent. What I'll do, thanks, Ollie. What I'll do, Lee, is I'll send you a form. We created a form called "Should I rebrand?" It's the most common question that most people ask. Should I rebrand? I think my logo's looking tired. I'm not getting the engagement I used to. And basically, it's just a simple two-sided form. You could fill it in digitally, and it just makes you think, am I attracting the right people? Have I changed my services? I'm trying to expand in a different area. It just makes you constantly think about where your business is going. We do a kind of a reflection on that called our brand impact review. So we'll look at your brand and tell you, without looking at your form, where we think you're targeting, who you're targeting, what kind of age range, what the psychology or colors you're using, the font feelings. So we'll use our expertise and knowledge that we've used, plus a lot of psychology has been written about logos, to give you an idea of what we think of your brand, if it's helpful. So I'll send that to you, Lee, and if you want to distribute that with the video.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep.
Okay.
Brilliant. Has anyone got any more questions?
Yeah, I have, if that's okay. I mean, Mike, that was very interesting, by the way, and yes, very thought-provoking. I suppose the thing I struggle with is the majority of the examples that you used there are big brands that are internationally recognized with big budgets. And I appreciate, you spoke about the Wessex as well. But for the majority of my clients who operate on far smaller budgets, and for the majority of us who operate on far smaller budgets, what do you think the primary thing, or the first thing we should concentrate on as small businesses is in relation to our brands?
I would say the values. If you understand the values, it gives you a better foundation for your brand. I usually speak about using Fiverr and Canva, because people say, I can get a logo online for $25, and it tends to be around about $25. And I say, they're great. It's not that they're not creative, and I don't think, you're not going to get a good job. What I struggle with is they are doers. Basically, you've got an online platform full of doers. So if you say, I'm a pink unicorn and I want a brand pink logo, that's what they'll design. And I think without sitting down and think about your values, if I'm looking for high-end clients, maybe I don't want to use pink, because pink means, feelings, romance, feminine, and you start to look at all of the elements that your brand is, giving off. So I would say the values, and it's quite simple. It's, who you're targeting. If you speak to any of these sales and business coaches, they'll say, describe your target audience. And most companies, most businesses will say, I don't know what my target audience is. They'll say, it's everybody, isn't it? You could say that for shoes. A shoe company could say, well, everybody wears shoes. But what they're looking for is, what is your ideal audience? What is your ideal customer? Does that help, Henry?
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah.
So I think if you start to think about the things like I mentioned about the fruit smoothies, the innocent drinks, they've really identified what they're trying to do. So it made their branding a lot easier. It's a lot more purposeful then. And it's the purposeful bit that I'd like to get to, really. And I'm always happy to talk to any startup companies. I'd rather give people advice and make sure that they're set off in the right direction than what I usually see, which is, Mike, I've got a logo, I've had it for 5 years. It's been all right, but I don't seem to be getting much business. And I say, well, let's look at everything. I always say that if painting your car red makes it a Ferrari, then you've got it spot on. But 9 out of 10 times, painting your car red is not going to make it a Ferrari. All it's going to do is make it prettier. You need to have a look under the bonnet, see where you're driving, see the power, the acceleration, where you're going to, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. If you need to get in contact, then please do. I'll be happy to have a one-to-one on Zoom with anybody who's interested in starting a new business or they're stuck.
Just out of interest, Mike, obviously a lot of the examples you gave today have been brand to consumer, but myself, in my most recent role, and I'm sure other people here are doing doing business to business.
Sorry, Neil. I think it's my internet.
Yeah, you have frozen on me there. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, Neil, I lost you a bit there. It was my internet, I think.
I was just saying a lot of the brands you were highlighting are business to consumer, whereas obviously a lot of us are business to business orientated, and branding is just as important, business to business. So you stand out in what can be a competitive marketplace.
Sorry, I lost you a bit there at the end there, Roger.
I'm just saying it's still just as important on a business to business marketplace to stand out, even though you're not necessarily appealing to consumers, you're appealing to other businesses.
Yeah, I used to say you could apply all of the same principles to your personal brand as well. And that's mainly what we're trying to do, really, as single entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, however you want to describe it. Sole traders. In my day, I would have said we're all sole traders. It's about our personal brands that we're trying to promote. It's what we can do, how we do it, our expertise. So I know I do talk about, you know, the big Coca-Colas and the McDonald's and everything else, but it's what I found is when I've done these presentations, I've used a whole range of different brands, and most people will say, I don't recognize that brand, Mike. Why are you talking about this one? It's obviously not hitting my, you know, peripheral. So that's why I've always chose bigger brands. But yeah, you're right, Roger.
You talk about sort of individuals, and in a business sense, I find it a little bit cringeworthy when individuals have their own logo. I find it a bit odd. The only one that does appeal to me is I quite like watching darts on ITV4 when it comes up, and you notice all the darts players have their own branding, their own imagery, their own logos in some sense, and I find that quite fascinating in that sense.
You have to think at darts players, motorbike riders. They do it as well. Some of the racing drivers, they're thinking about their followers. So with the dart players, if they can get more followers, it spreads awareness. You might get more people attracted to the darts game, but people will buy a shirt with his logo on, his brand on there. And I think that's what they're trying to do, build that brand following, which is slightly different to individuals. I agree. If you're a financial advisor, do you need a logo? You might start to use a logo that's attributed to your industry. I know that a lot of these financial advisors are backed by SAP. So by using their brand, it helps promote you as a personal brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's different uses. Neil, I missed you earlier when you spoke. You were shaking a bottle, and my signal went completely. Oh, you're on mute now.
Sorry, a lot. What you spoke about, Mike, was really interesting, but it had a lot to do with brand heritage.
Yes.
Now, I've got a challenge there when we talk about gem wine, etc. And one of the big things for a lot of the brands I deal with in the design space is that they don't care about brand heritage. They don't put the same values on the baked beans or the banks or things like that we do. So this, some of you people may well be aware of, this is a brand phenomenon where kids in the playground are selling the labels on this bottle for £5. You can buy it for like £2 in Asda, but you know they're selling them for an amazing amount of money in the school playground. Now this is a brand with no heritage whatsoever, and it's all completely by influencers and things like that. So I'm just interested in your thoughts on, I guess, the new brands that are coming and how that would affect startup, because I guess we're all entrepreneurs, and in that space we're developing something new.
Yeah.
Different.
I think there's been a huge landscape change, and you'll probably agree, Neil, that the landscape has changed dramatically. It used to be all paper advertising in publications, billboards. TV was like a luxury, and I don't think any of us are at a TV level. But now all you need to do is look at your local area. Some of the new brands now are starting off with, like you say, influencers. Influencers is a big thing. It's very new to me, and I do wonder if my time's come to an end when I start to see that influencing is a bigger thing than the old advertising billboard style, which I've been using for the last 30 odd years. So I think there's been a huge change. The landscape is changing constantly. You might have noticed that there's less billboards and there's more advertising on products. And that was a huge change, because we're now looking online for products. We'll search Amazon, we'll use eBay, we'll use all of these different platforms to find a product. So the product needs to shout even more about what it does. So the branding's been reduced, and what the brand does is more on the product now. The label industry has completely changed. So I think there's going to be different ways. If you hit that special, nugget, that ideal way of getting to the top, you've hit the nail on the head. You found the best way. But I think we're all going to be struggling around trying to battle our way to the top and see what's going to get us into the industry, what's going to make us noticed, for being the expert in our field. And it's all going to be changing. And I think it's still changing, and it will change for the next couple of years. There's been a huge swing already that I've noticed with people saying, I'm doing less online advertising and more networking now, because everybody's open, everybody's susceptible to seeing people face to face. So I think there's going to be another swing. I think there's going to be another push for more visual advertising on newspapers, cards, exhibitions now for the next year at least. And then it'll probably die down. It'll go back through again. So there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, I think, over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, true. I mean, my viewpoint, I guess, for startups and brands is the desire to be authentic to your own values, as you mentioned, Mike, rather than trying to ape some of the things that other people are doing, because there are a lot of logo alikes where people try to look like, you know, big brands. And I feel kind of authenticity and pulling things from your heritage, from your company, from what it is that you're trying to achieve is, I did that with myself in sort of like being a designer going, oh my God, how do I design my own design business logo? I actually went back to my history. I went, it's Eric Gill, and Eric Gill was like one of the things that Gill was one of the big moments where I understood design at university. And then the colors in my brand are all from my cycling history, because I'm a cyclist, and, you know, I'm using the color from Bianchi because I spent a lot of money on a Bianchi and, you know, and things like that.
Nice
But
bike. Nice bike.
No, it's all kind of like from things that are important to me and things that represent, you know, who I am. So when I look at my brand, I go, yeah, no, I recognize that. I'm not trying to be, you know, Saatchi and Saatchi or something like that. I'm just expressing my history. And you know, that's almost like what I'd recommend to, you know, as I'm sure as you do, just like, you know, write down who you are and what you believe in, and then go from there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, actually. I wrote a pitch after Wednesday's meeting with Martin. So I'm going to read my pitch out, and you can decide whether you like it or not. I was going to say, I was on a Zoom call with Martin Barnes, Pitch Club. We were talking about our 30-second elevator pitch. So he asked, what do you do? What was interesting was, the 6 volunteers we had all went for that big business pitch. In the industry, have this, percentages that, but 9 out of 10 times, you're not pitching to investors. You're chatting, you're meeting new people. It's like a meeting like this. So they don't need that big hard sell. Your brand is your pitch, your elevator pitch for your company. That's how simple it needs to be. The only difference between your brand is it needs to work when you're not in the room. So there's my pitch for what I do. But yeah, I agree with you, Neil. It needs to be something that you can talk about and feel passionate about and is authentic.
Any more questions?
Loving the question so far.
No? Okay. Right. Well, thank you so much, Mike.
No, thank you, Lee.
Really appreciate you coming and talking to us all.